Does the way we learn change over time? For instance, why is it so much easier for us to learn a new language if we start learning it whilst we're young? It's not just because children have more time, although that is an issue for adult learners, alongside things like financial barriers, self-doubt, and a lack of proper support. There's also the issue of neuroplasticity, which is our brain's ability to change and adapt over time. This is something that declines as we get older. Thankfully, adult learners can excel at learning new skills. It seems you can teach an old dog new tricks. Unfortunately, this is an area of research that is criminally underexplored. In fact, before World War II, theories almost always focus on the way that children learn. But clearly it's important that we think about the way adults learn and how that's distinct from when we learn when we're younger. I'm Harry from Growth Engineering, and today we are going to be exploring Malcolm Knowles' adult learning theory. Specifically, we're going to be looking at his 6 principles of adult learning alongside their benefits and limitations. If you're looking to understand the way that adults learn better, or if you're looking to capture the hearts and minds of a group of adult learners, then this is the video for you. Okay, let's get started. This theory was created by American educator and researcher Malcolm Knowles. It first became popular in 1973 when he published his book, The Adult Learner. That's right, we didn't really start to think of adult learning as something distinct from child learning until the 70s, which is pretty remarkable. Now, the theory itself is also known as andragogy, which comes from a Greek word meaning man leading. This contrasts with the term pedagogy, which means child leading, and is usually used to refer to all standard teaching approaches. Knowles' theory itself breaks down into 6 key principles of adult learning, which help to explain the way that adult learners differ from children. Let's explore these next. Knowles' first principle is that adults need to know the reason why they're learning something. In other words, if you just told me to read a manual or a guidebook or watch a video for no reason, I probably wouldn't do it. The second principle is that adults have a self-concept of being responsible for their own actions. This means we tend to be more self-directed and independent learners than children. The third principle is that experience plays a much bigger role in adult learning. As adults, we've all lived a life and we all have a foundation of knowledge to build upon. This informs how we react to new information. The fourth principle is that an adult's readiness to learn is determined by their current needs. This means that any learning material needs to be highly relevant if it's to hold sway. The fifth principle is that an adult learner's orientation to learning is typically more problem-centered or task-orientated. In other words, we don't tend to learn just for the sake of it. We learn to solve particular problems or overcome particular challenges. The sixth and final principle is that adult learners are typically more motivated by intrinsic factors or internal motivators, such as the desire for personal growth or self-development. This contrasts with our desires as a child, which are typically driven by external factors such as the promise of reward or the threat of punishment. So those are the key assumptions that drive adult learning. This means to create effective adult learning experiences, you need to involve your learner, both in the production process and within the actual experience itself. You also need to draw upon their existing knowledge and use that as a foundation for new knowledge. You need to create learning experiences that are problem-centered and task-oriented. And you need to make sure all your content is highly relevant to your learners' lives. By embracing andragogy, we can begin to create learning experiences that make adults feel respected, motivated, and challenged. In turn, this will help to increase engagement and improve knowledge retention. Now, of course, no learning theory is perfect, and this theory in particular does rely on a lot of assumptions. For instance, Knowles assumes that adult learners are all very similar creatures and fails to account for a lot of our different unique needs and preferences. It also places a lot of focus on self-directed learning, whereas I think a lot of us would benefit from a more structured approach. As ever, the key is to remain flexible and to focus on the specific needs of your audience. whether they happen to be children or adults. But with that said, adult learning theory is very useful as it helps us to forge a clear distinction in our minds between the way we used to learn as a child and the way that we learn now as an adult. And in turn, that can help us to create better learning experiences. Okay, that's it from me today. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you found it informative. Happy learning, and we'll see you in the next one.